So, poem 120. So, poem 120. Lost. Put my tie back on. Okay. The reason I like to read this one is I just think it's very, very charming and unusual and very creative. More a little later than what you guys have read, but it's also very, it's off the theme of Cynthia, and it's very Callimachus, I think, but in a way that is more fun than Callimachus himself, more flexible and more, more real. It's sort of that Catullus mode. So, and it's witty and so forth. So, it gets really interesting later in the poem. All right. So, would anyone like to start? Okay, Izzy, go ahead.
All righty. I will admit the second line confused me slightly, but we, in exchange for your continued love, Gallus, advise this, that you like is this like a so that something does not disappear, or so that you do not disappear from a unsuspecting spirit, or so that something does not disappear from your unsuspecting spirit?
Yeah, that's closer. Yeah, so the quad, the antecedent of quad is hoc, right?
Yes.
So that, and quad therefore is the subject of de fluat. But you are right, de fluat is subjunctive, so there's like maybe a purpose, a relative clause of purpose. So, monemus is we, but he really means I. I advise you this so that it, or which might not, may not, de fluo, flow, de, from.
Like fade?
Oh wait, I missed the nay. What is the nay doing?
May not.
I took it as like a
delayed,
like nay, like as in like fear clause maybe, or something like that, where like quad was just used because it's referring to an antecedent. So if you like just put nay in the front of the sentence, and then
I thought quod referred to the love, so like lest your love fade away from your unsuspecting soul.
Yeah, I mean that would work, except the gender doesn't match. Amore is masculine. I think Alex has it. It's sort of like a connecting relative. So it's almost as though you want to put a period after or amore, but they don't even care about punctuation. But I think you're right. Quad is like it, and then nay is maybe a fear clause, or
like let it not flip from your vacant clause.
Ah, that's even better. I think that's even better. That's what I think it is. It's adjessive. It's funny. I escaped my notice. We're gonna have to edit this part of the Okay. I think you're right. It's a connecting relative quad. I think the comma really threw me off, but the comma, of course, is modern editorial idea, and I think it's a connecting relative with adjessive. Let it not flow from your heart. That makes the most logical sense to me in terms of what he's saying.
Why is it your empty soul? And also, like, why does he always use TB, like some almost like a dative possessor all the time, instead of just using maybe tool?
Yeah, that's very common in poetry. It's technically a dative of reference, but they use it possessively all the time, and that's a poetry thing. You could argue it's this thing called the ethical dative, which is almost doesn't have fit into the syntax. It's almost like let me tell you, or or something like that. But I think with the animo, I think it is sort of possessive. It has that dative of possessive quality. So okay.
Does defluent mean like leave? So like glide away, fade away, or something?
Yes, I like glide away. Let it not glide away from your
unsuspecting
heart. Yeah, I mean that's an interpretation of this one There's this one commentary that I use. I guess I'm not like 100% convinced by it, but it's good. It's pretty good. Yeah. Yeah, I thought maybe in the sense, vacuous usually means like not preoccupied with some worried. So I guess unsuspected.
It could be like naive.
Yeah,
'Cause
yeah.
I think they keep on saying that like you're being so naive, but this guy is playing you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. Okay, good.
Do the next two also, or?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
All right. Often disaster happens to imprudent lovers.
Yeah.
Thus was the Ascanius to the bloody Minyae, descendants of Minyas.
Yes, the Argonauts. Yeah.
Argonauts.
Yeah, and then Ascanius, everyone's surprised to find out is the name of a river, even though it's the same name as Aeneas' son.
Wait, which one came first? Were they like, that this must be Aeneas' son because that was the name of the river, or did they name the river after Aeneas' son?
My guess is that the river putatively comes first, and maybe Ascanius is named after the river because it's in that region.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Troy is in that part of the world. Yeah, Amanti is singular to imprudent lover. Maybe Fortuna as disaster is maybe over-translating. I think it works just saying fortune, because fortune can go either way, right? But either way, yeah. Now the crudelis miniis, that's a really like Callimacheian moment, right? Because it's the Argonauts, but he's identifying them with a semi-obscure patronymic. So, okay, you want to go next? Okay, Alona, why don't you go next?
To you, he is not inferior in looks, or maybe no. Yours, is it like that one of yours is not inferior in looks?
I think it's like a dative of possessor, maybe. There is to you.
Oh, there is. Oh, that makes sense. Okay. There is to you implied one. Not inferior in looks and not unlike in name. Near your passion. Or is it like there is to you a passion?
That's right. That's what.
Okay. There is to you a passion, blah, blah, blah. Near to Theodamantian Hellas, as in near to him in like prettiness.
I guess so. Yeah. I now that I've looked at this, my note. I'm not sure I agree with my note anymore because he's just said he's not inferior in looks, and then I say, well, I mean, let's just maybe translate it literally. Keep it ambiguous.
Like near to.
Near to, yeah.
Okay.
And Theodamantian means just the son of Theodamas. The myth itself is slightly obscure, although it's in Hellenistic literature. But then mentioning his father, nobody would know his father's name, so that's very Callimacheian as well. Yeah, he's really just
being smart for the sake of being smart.
Yeah, exactly. And Hylas exists as a character entirely to just be Heracles' lost boyfriend. He doesn't really have any other existence in myth. So, and that's by the way, this is all goes back to the, like the really important and totally surviving Alexandrian epic of the Argonauts by Apollonius of Rhodes. And this is how Heracles leaves the Argonauts. He doesn't make it all the way with the Argonauts. He leaves because he's searching for Hylas. So.
This man, you, whether like the boat whether you wind your way in a boat among the streams of shady forests, shady woods.
Yeah, actually, that might be, since umbra and silva are both nouns, I think we interpret umbrae as Umbrian, part of Italy, Umbria.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
So, okay. So among the woods of Umbria?
That's right. Yeah, the Umbrian woods. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Or the way that the Aenean waves, or waves singular. I'm guessing tickles, but I couldn't really find a definition for this verb. Your feet.
Yeah, it's tinga, so it's like dip, like bathe, tinge.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bathes your feet or tinges your feet. Wait, but which is the main verb? The feet or the stream or the wave rather?
Tinxerit is the verb. Notice tuos pedes is accusative. So aniena unda is
Tinxerit, okay.
subject. Yeah, the onion water. The onion.
Mm-hmm.
And the Anio is a tributary of the Tiber. So if you were to go upstream the Tiber and then there's a tributary that meets it up into the hills, there is a town that's still pretty famous called Tivoli. And there's it's a very beautiful town. It's in the hills. It has big garden. There's a Renaissance palace there, but it was also a resort. It was where Romans would go in the summer to keep cool, like as fashionable Romans, and there'd be like a season there and so forth. So
this is kind of like the Catullus poem about going into the middle of nowhere and being away from the lover, because he's a hero, but the other way around, because they're going to like places that are like the Great Gatsby.
These are more like fashionable places. This is like Odessa or something, or not Odessa. What's the one in
Yalta.
What's that?
Yalta.
Yalta. This is like going to Yalta. Yeah.
Are you translating this into Soviet speak for me?
No, just because of Russian lit. I was thinking of a Chekhov story, the lady with the dog. All right. So yes, and it's the same kind of thing, right? That was all. Pardon us for a second. That was all about picking people up. So that's what would happen in Tibor. Okay.
Sorry, just one question on one of the notes.
Uh-huh.
On line 7, the note on leges flumina says must mean wind your way along the banks of streams. Would it be the banks or would it just be going along the streams? Because I think because it seems like rate would imply like that's, if I'm not mistaken, which I could be, that could be like that's with a raft or with a boat. So that doesn't seem like you'd be, that seems like you would just wind your way along the streams rather than walking alongside them.
I think you're 100% right. I'm guessing that in the edition that I used, rate was something different. And either that or I nodded at that in that note. But I don't have my book, so I don't know exactly what the various choices are here. Likewise, huic is an emendation in that line, which would counter my note. The original manuscript is hunk. And this shows you a nice little example of what you have to think about when you're editing a text. The manuscript is hunk, which makes no sense. That doesn't fit into the sentence. Huic barely fits into the sentence, but once we get to the end, you'll see that you could fit a dative in there. However, it's a little sketchy because you're so far away from huic that you would have forgotten the syntax by then. So one editor thinks we need to amend this so the sentence makes grammatical sense. Another editor says we need to be conservative. We can't change things that can be justified. And I think the majority would say there is this figure of speech called anakaluthon, which is where you just sort of drop the syntax you started at the beginning of the sentence because you sort of gotten sidetracked and you go on to something else. So I think this is a nice borderline case because the anakaluthon, it's hard to judge what effect it would have here. We're not in an emotional moment. There's no reason for the anakaluthon. And yet that's an available explanation. So one editor says, that's good enough for me. And another editor says, it's not good enough for me. I'm going to make the emendation to huic. Does that make sense? If you guys could just hold for a second. I see that I need to plug my computer in, but I left the cord downstairs. So I'll be right back.
Do you think we get raft from rate?
I don't think so.
It's
I don't
party
think
time.
That would be cool though. 'Cause it means the same thing.
Wait, Lona,
Yeah.
how different is Ukrainian from Russian?
Not somewhat. They have a slightly different alphabet. There are a couple more letters. I can read it, but I can't speak it or understand it very well. Let's put it that way. Like, because people speak very quickly, so I get lost in it, but I can usually understand.
So is the pronunciation a little different? Or
Yeah,
the grammar?
it's like having an accent. Because
Okay, so it's like just a heavy accent level difference?
Well, the words are different because it is a different language.
Okay.
Some of the words are different. Belarusian is pretty much Russian.
raft is from late Middle English. as
Actually,
Germanic,
Ukrainian is just Russian with an accent.
from West Old Norse, from Proto-Germanic, from Proto-Indo-European.
Fine.
Stake, beam.
Fine.
See also Norwegian, raft, beam, rafter. Danish, raft, thin pole.
You
Compare
made your point.
raft, ferry.
I had a Ukrainian student want to explain to me that the difference between Russian and Ukrainian is analogous to Spanish and Portuguese.
Yeah.
They can understand each other, but it's a little different.
Yeah. Basically. I have many cousins in Ukraine because my dad is from Kiev. But Ukrainian is also one of those languages that basically like significantly formed in the 20th century.
Ah, right.
So when my dad was there, they really spoke more Russian than Ukrainian.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right. Do you want to keep going with that sentence or should we pass it on?
Yeah, sure.
You're in
Was
the middle
I-
of the sentence, so.
Yeah. Like you are walking about the shore edge, the shore edge of the gigantic beach, I guess you can say.
Yeah, Latin usually uses those two words as synonyms because ora, ora, in the first line of the Aeneid, he goes aboris.
Mm.
And then a line later, he uses litora. So maybe the edge of the shore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
And now this is where, in the edition I used, it was gigantea, agreeing with shore, but here it's gigantei, agreeing with litoris. I mean, it doesn't matter that much.
Mm-hmm. Who's doing the walking about? Is it some sort of
Oh, well, spatiabere is the alternate second person singular.
Oh, okay.
So this is Gallus. He's like Gallus, whether where is it? Whether you, leges, are winding up the streams of the Umbrian woods in your raft, not raft, but little boat, or then he changes, or the waters of the Aeneans tinge your feet, or, and then he's back to second person. You are
walking about.
Is like taking a stroll, kind of.
Taking a stroll on the edge of the shore of Gigantea, I guess.
Of the giant shore, the giant's shore. Yeah, actually, since this is such a long sentence, we can pass it on after that. But my note, although the case has changed, the reference is the same. It seems to be referring to a very, very important resort area for Romans, which is north along the shore of the Bay of Naples. And there's a town called Baiae in ancient times, or Baia now. It's still a beach town, and it was a beach town back then. It has very good remains, Roman buildings and stuff. But it was a fashionable resort. So, yeah, so good. Who wants to go next? Okay, Nick.
Or whether this sentence is missing. This clause is missing a verb.
Defend it?
No, sue ubi cumque wago.
I'm not really sure what this line means. I think ubi cumque, I think the verb spatiabere maybe,
You mean
Is that
sum it all up. He's like wherever or wherever.
Yeah, that's the sense that I got. Or whether wherever by the wandering hospitality of the river, like wherever you go, I assume is the.
That's what he means, yeah.
Always ward off the lecherous plunders of the nymphs.
Yeah, that is actually correct. But like lecherous. I mean, Cupidas isn't necessarily.
It doesn't. I mean, I assume in this case, right? Like this is a.
I guess you're right.
Is it an imperative?
Defenda is, yeah.
Oh.
Always ward off the. We'll stick with your colorful translation. What was the
Lecherous.
Lecherous.
Plunders.
Plunders, yeah, the lecherous plunders of the nymphs. Who do you think he's referring to there?
The resort ladies who are throwing themselves at him.
Yeah, so Gallus has this really good-looking young boyfriend, and she's like, watch out for those Roman housewives, because not housewives, but like matrons, vacation, because
The boyfriend says that?
No, Propertius. Gallus, I noticed you have a new boyfriend. When you go to these resort towns, watch out for the.
Why does Propertius care?
He's giving his friend advice. Come on.
Exactly.
It's just considerate. Look, we know that he knows all about cheating on significant other. Like, he's just passing on some advice.
I think he's both kind of ribbing him for having a young, a young boyfriend, but also in a way, here's where Propertius is like always more subtle than Catullus. Catullus would just rib him for it, but this ribbing almost sounds like
Good for you.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like a teasing, but like not being a jerk about teasing.
Exactly.
Gallus would be the what is it? The like the the older the
like, that is moving, walking.
Yes, in the Greek sense, yeah.
Yes.
Although, I think in this case that would be a literary conceit, because this after all isn't Greece.
Yeah, true. Okay, fair enough.
So, I think it's not an unknown phenomenon in all societies that successful middle-aged men, seek out younger companions. So, so yeah. So, but I think when you're talking about it, you put it in that kind of Greek context because it's very literary, Yeah. All right, keep going.
I was also confused in this line. There is not less love to the Italian nymphs.
Yeah, if you translate amor more as like passion, maybe, or desire, like eros.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So the passion of the Italian nymphs is not less than I guess other nymphs, you know, and in particular the ones in the story.
See, I read that as the passion of the nymphs is not less than that of Italians. Like comparing like, you know, mythological stories of nymphs who are throwing themselves at a guy to like actual people.
I mean, I think you could make a case literally for that. I think the tough part is Adriasin would have to be ablative, I think, in that case. Now, the thing is that Greek doesn't have an ablative, so this would be the comparative form in Greece, I think, or unless they use the genitive, I can't remember. Yeah, but I think that'd be confusing, really confusing for the Romans. So Adriasin has to be dative. Then I think the comparison would work the wrong way. Then you'd be saying the nymphs, mythological nymphs' passion is not less than the Italians, but it's the Italians who he's trying to talk about. It's these Italian ladies, right? So, but I think grammatically you could maybe make a case for that. And I gotta say, nowhere else in Latin literature, although I haven't read everything, have I seen, you know, in the Aeneid, we've seen Vergil use like Greek accusative forms, like Aeneia for Aeneas and other such things, but using the dative plural is so strange. But that's how Kallimachene and Propertius is. He even uses the dative plural of the Greek. On the other hand, this poem is so vexed in its transmission that, you know, notice in the note, this is a conjecture for an unintelligible reading in the manuscript. So an editor figured out that maybe Propertius said this. It's not implausible a medieval scribe who doesn't know Greek would have no idea what to do with this form, right? So, all right, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, maybe finish the sentence, Nick.
Lest there be hard mountains and frigid rocks to you. Oh, sorry, the end of the sentence. Gallus, and lest you always go to expected lakes or tested lakes.
Maybe destitute.
Yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Could it mean destitute, like lonely?
Yeah, desolate, maybe. Desolate lakes. Yeah. Yeah, so whether it is to you, like ne tibi sit, which I paraphrased in my note as lest it be your lot. And then in the first sentence, montes et frigida saxa is the nominative. And in the second phrase, adire, the infinitive, is sort of the nominative. So whether hard mountains, oh no, that's wrong. That's from the other, that only works with the other version. Duros is clearly accusative. So adire is the subject of both. Lest it be your lot to adire, to approach, duros monte, hard mountains and cold rocks, Gallus, and desolate lakes. Does that make sense? Yeah. Do you guys understand that? That's actually a preview of the mythological example he's going into. So do you guys understand that reference?
So
To Hercules?
Hercules, yeah.
So that you don't do this now, so you don't lose your boyfriend and become Hercules and have to go on a field trip across the mountain ranges of Greece.
Looking for him, right, yeah. So this is sort of the segue into the mythological story, which I think is the whole point of the poem, you know. So, all right, very good. Any questions so far? All right, Ilan, go ahead.
So, this, the wretched wandering of Hercules, but like the wretched wandering Hercules,
That's right. It's so weird, and yet it is in Homer. It isn't in Homer. He doesn't say. By the way, if you notice, I forgot when I printed this out, I forgot I had Greek letters in there, and I forgot to put it on the Greek font. So if you look in the note, there's like this unintelligible BIH, and then there's like even a box. So that was the Greek BA Herakleie, which means the Heraclean force, and that's how Hercules is referred to in the Iliad. It's so strange. It might be metrical, so that you couldn't fit Heracles in there. So yeah, I think that's true, because Heracles is hey long, short, clays long, and you can't fit that into a dactylic hexameter. So you have to use this other. I think that's it. I have to look up the quantities. Okay.
Imagine being one of like the most famous heroes of
the epic genre and not being able to fit into the epic genre meter.
Yeah, and then you don't scan. Maybe that's why he's a comic figure, because his name does scan in comedy, in a comic meter. So he's a big comic hero. He's in a lot of comedies. So he's like the drunken, boorish, like pre-civilized, caveman. Anyway, all right, go ahead, Elon. Go ahead.
Okay, he was enduring on the unknown shore, and wept by the untamed Ascanius River.
Start over, because I lost the thread between our conversation. Start from the beginning.
No, sorry. The wretched wandering Hercules, was enduring on the unknown shore, and he wept by the untamed Ascanius.
You froze.
Oh, wait, should I do the second part again?
I think we got everyone. Did everyone get it? Yeah.
I got it.
I think the only thing, you sort of made an editorial decision to translate perpessus as a finite verb. He suffered this, as opposed to suffering this. Does that make sense? That's what it literally is. Yep. Good. Want to keep going? Do a little more.
Mm.
How far did we go? Did I say 20?
20.
20. All right. Well, maybe you could do. We'll leave at least 2 lines for Alex, and then Alex can start next week.
For they say that the Argo set sail once from the Pagasan shipyards.
Actually, the shipyards of Pagasa. That's actually a noun. Yep.
Oh, okay. To make the journey to Phasis. Sorry.
Phasis. Yeah. Yeah. Aggressam viam is sort of like the accusative of extent of motion. So he went on the journey. The viam is he went on the journey of Phasis, literally, right? The journey to Phasis. Maybe that's what you said.
Yeah. Is it the long journey to Phasis?
Longe is. That's the sense of it. Longe is an adverb, so I think it's aggressam longe, having gone forth a long way. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
In my edition, Argo had an N on it. I'm just gonna look it up in a Greek dictionary. Where did I put my? Oh, it's right here. Under my computer.
Is the Greek dictionary very large?
Yeah, this is it. This is still standard, although it was revised, but it's called the Little and Scott. And this That's little. Not very
little though.
I know. There's also different versions. So there's a really concise version that everyone calls the little, and then there's the medium, which everyone calls the middle. But this little is the father of the girl that Alice in Wonderland is based on, Alice Little. Isn't that cool?
Wild.
Wow.
Oscar. Wild.
Uh-huh.
How Ada Lovelace did all the crazy stuff with computers, but then also had some impressive parentage in a completely different field.
Who is that?
Ada Lovelace. She's hypothetically the love child of Byron and someone or other.
Oh.
And she's also the person whom Thomasina from Arcadia, which I played, was based on.
Aha. That's cool.
Yep.
So the Argo is really not a super important point, but Argo. So would that be, it's feminine, Argoas, Argon. I can't remember. It's been so long. I can't remember my Greek declensions. So Argo could very well be the accusative, or Argon, or there could be two. Anyway, not important point. It's an indirect statement, so it's accusative. Now, all right. All right. Right. And Alex, do you want to finish? Oh, I have to let you guys go, right? Hello. Oh, I'm so sorry for keeping you. Alex, you'll
No
go
problem.
next time. See you guys
Thank
on Tuesday.
Thank you. Yeah. Bye.
All right.